All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How y'all feeling? How you doing? Yeah, I have a swanky sweater on. It was a gift. Might be too swanky for the show, though, but I like it. All right, how you guys doing? You guys, you're getting some rain, Judy Truitt? Good to see you all. I think I forgot to, I don't know, Denver gave me an after-hours tip a couple days ago. I think I forgot to say thank you for the tip, Denver. Anyways, let's get it. There's so much to cover. I'm so glad that you guys tag me and stuff on Twitter, but it makes it a little difficult. You got people tag me like right before the show, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like an overload a little bit. I have to, then I want to cover all these things that people send me. So it makes it, you know, sometimes I already had so many things I wanted to talk about. And then, oh, thank you, Gene. And then, Poppy sent me a couple of really cool things. Yeah, you guys send me good stuff, and I'm like, oh, I have to talk about this too. I can't leave this one out. Rainy in Michigan today. No snow to be found. Wow, that is a, yeah, that's pretty odd, Clayton. I've been to Michigan in the winter. I used to go to Michigan a lot for shows. I used to play a lot of shows in Detroit and other places in Michigan too. And yes, right around this time of year, there should be snow on the ground, or at least snow banks, right? You know how they shovel all the snow up onto the side of the road or in the side of the parking lot? And there's big old banks of snow in Michigan. You know, even if it's not currently snowing, there's usually like residual banks of snow. Thanks, Poppy. Thank you. And so, yeah, no, it's all good. I'm kind of kidding with you guys a little bit. Please keep sending me stuff because it's all good stuff. It's just, I don't know if I'm going to get it into the show the day you send it to me. I might have to do it the next day sometimes. But send me stuff whenever you see it. Please, by all means, don't hold back. Good to see you all you guys. All right. And we got people on Rockfin too. Rockfinners, what's going on? Chana Milana says, I'm getting paid up to $15,000 this week working online at home. Thanks, Chana. That's an immediate block for you. It doesn't, I don't know, it's just a bot, right? I guess it doesn't really matter if you block a bot. But there are other people saying real things on Rockfin too. How y'all doing? What? Soylent Green is now available from Denver. Soylent gingerbread protein nutrition. That's the actual name of it. Is Soylent, and then there's a green. It's green too, so I guess it's Soylent Green. What? It's a protein nutrition shake, and it's called Soylent, and it's colored green. That's not weird at all. Interesting. Okay. You guys want to see the Soylent Green? Sorry. Probably should have showed you. That's not very nice. There you go. Soylent. Soylent. Why would you call it that? Why would you name? Some lady stabbed a Chinese 8-year-old 7 times in the head? What the heck? Okay, God dang it. Oh, it sounds... Soylent, I think, is made from soy boys. Okay. Made by soy boys for soy boys. I don't know. I could be a soy boy. I'm actually a soy boy myself. I don't eat meat. I eat soy though. So call me a soy boy and slap me silly. I don't know. Whatever that is. TCR sent me this. Joe Rogan has a, I don't know, it's kind of long. It's like 7 minutes. Maybe we can get something decent out of this though in the first couple, like a minute. Joe Rogan has a video titled, "Do We Really Have to Worry About Climate Change?" I don't know. You guys want to see what he has to say about this? Does Soylent actually mean made from humans? I don't know. I thought it was just the title of the movie. I thought it was just the brand from the movie, Soylent Green. Meal Soylent. Hold on. Is there an actual definition of it? I think it was just a name, wasn't it? From a movie, Soylent Green. But I don't know. It's made from people. The Soylent Killer. I guess people don't think this drink is very good. Maybe you guys should stay away from the Soylent Green. Whether they're made from humans or not. I can't find it. Okay, let's play this. People are just stabbing people in Indiana? Jesus. What's going on? What's going on there, Indiana? California is now realizing Democrats won't solve climate change. Yeah. I had this conversation with somebody recently. I was like, yeah, there's, California's literally all, the entire government is mostly Democrats, right? There's a super majority, and there has been a super majority for forever and ever. And, why aren't we just super progressive and take it? Why don't we have Medi-Cal for all? Why don't we have, homes for the homeless? Why don't we have, why aren't we just enjoying, just frolicking in a progressive utopia wonderland? Because Democrats are the same as Republicans in the end. In the end. Record people are leaving California. They're leaving California because there are a lot of problems in California. One of which is the amazing amount of homeless people. It's very expensive to live here. Okay, let's see this. Hold on. Dang it. Low sound again. Let's see. Let's try this again.
Lack of humidity. That makes sense. The Sahara Desert used to be a fucking rainforest. Really? Yeah, that's like the normal path of things. We look at stuff through such a narrow window that we think, oh, the desert's the desert, the jungle's the jungle. But there's a natural path that goes back and forth between things becoming like rainforest and jungle, and then things becoming sand.
Are we talking about the ice caps too? How apparently that was lush. Someone told me that used to be lush forest. That became we're in an ice age right now, technically. Is that?
Oh God, I'm already tired listening to this because it sounds like they're talking about the climate is always changing. Oh God, I don't know. I fear that my brain might break in a few seconds. So we'll play a couple more seconds of this.
Correct.
I don't think so.
I heard if we have polar ice caps, that's technically an ice age. But I could be
really?
wrong. My cousin told me that.
Your cousin might be on Reddit.
His cousin
My
definitely on
cousin
Reddit.
goes through our conspiracy.
Definitely on Reddit. My cousin was reassuring me. He's like, dude, the ice caps will fully melt and it'll just be lush and we'll all move up there. You know, 100 years.
Well, if global warming does keep accelerating, that's what everybody, the people that have the most optimistic view of it, they say all the places that are wicked cold will just move into those.
I was listening to that guy. He was talking about how like the Midwest, like Minnesota
Yeah.
and shit, that'll be like Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It'll
gonna
be
get a
nice.
lot warmer.
I'm going to recross the Bering Strait.
You gotta get
Nice.
back.
I'm going to go
I
back
think
to
it's the
Pangaea.
opposite though. It's gonna get more water. You're looking at it wrong.
So I get my time.
If an ice
timeline's
age
close.
happens, then you can make that walk.
Need that.
Well, at least Joe is kind of bringing a little bit of reality to it, but I mean, already it's just dumb, right? Because if you understand climate science on any level, you understand that the Arctic is warming, 3 times as fast as the rest of the planet, and if you go north, you're not necessarily going to be okay. And again, also all the things that we think grow, super great in the Midwest or even lower latitudes are not going to really take in the north, even if it's warmer.
That was my favorite at Jones. He was like, fuck global warming, the ice caps are growing. And everyone was like, shut the fuck up. And then one quick Google, you're like, God damn it, he's right.
They're growing?
Antarctica is.
So Leonardo DiCaprio is wrong?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh my God.
He talked to the scientists.
All these fucking scientists, even
One quick Google and it'll show you it's wrong.
the scientists don't agree because there's a mass group of scientists that will tell you, and this is undeniable, that human beings have had a big impact on carbon emissions. But you know that volcano that just erupted? Where'd that volcano just erupt?
I mean,
There's one
Iceland had a
that
big
just cracked.
recently.
Some guy put this, I would like to find out if this is true. Some guy put this on Twitter that there was more CO2 released from that one volcano erupting.
No,
than
that's not
everything
true.
Human beings have ever done.
No, that's false. So whatever. I'm not going to play any more of this. Okay, sorry. These guys are really just repeating like misinformation. And the old like one quick Google will tell you that that's not true. That's not fucking true. Sorry for my cussing. That is not true. Y'all. Hold on. So what's behind the surprising growth of one Antarctic ice sheet? That doesn't mean the whole Antarctica, all the ice in Antarctica is good. So that's probably what they're talking about. Hold on. I think what they're talking about, so there has been some growth in Antarctica, but that doesn't mean that, I think they're talking about like a specific. So if there's more ice in Antarctica over a couple of years, what the hell is going on? Sorry, guys. I can't seem to get to this. That doesn't mean that Arctic ice isn't decreasing, right? Well, Rogan used to be, if you go in and watch the whole clip, they talk about how that's not true. Right. Okay, good. Obsolete Optics, thank you for. I mean, Rogan is a believer in climate change. He believes that it's a thing that's happening. So, and just because some Antarctic ice might be growing, it doesn't mean that Arctic ice is not depleting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's full on denialism. I just think it's misinformation, and that's what's kind of weird. I don't know. Should we watch the rest of this? Let's watch it.
Really? I don't know if it's true. Sounds amazing though.
I like it. I've heard math in the
Shut
parts per
down some
million.
cucks with that kind of
Yeah,
talk.
I like it. I'll be at the cellar trying to dish that out. They'll be like, where did you find that? I'll be like, don't worry about it.
You see, people worry about all kinds of things, but super volcano is what you really should worry about.
Yeah, no, actually, so you're right. TCR, the volcano thing is wrong. That's totally misinformation. So they're kind of, it's like a half and half. All right, no, I'm not going to watch any more of this. I have other things to talk about. So, but that's it's cherry picking. If there's been quite a bit of data about Antarctica being at record low extents. I don't know about volume. Or are they talking about volume? Maybe they're talking about extent opposed to volume, right? So they're talking about extent, sea ice extent. Sea ice extent is growing. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this. Okay, so they had a record maximum extent, but they're not talking about volume. Even though the Arctic is going down, the extent in the Arctic is going down, down, down. Right. They're trying to minimize the seriousness of it, and that's fine. If you're sitting around in an air-conditioned studio smoking weed, it's funny to joke about it. For as long as you can, I mean, get it while it's good, is what I say. So here's where we get into some science. So this is where, saying just random stuff is actually not very helpful. This is where the misinformation comes in. And Antarctic sea ice is mostly thin, single year sea ice. It's also warmer, more salient, and more mobile than. So they're literally talking about extent as opposed to volume. Right, and if you're talking about Antarctic volume, I believe the volume is going down. But this is, this is somebody this is science operating as science, right? Saying like, well, here's what's going on. Like nobody's, trying to fudge the numbers or talk about something else going on. And nobody's, trying to lie about what's happening in order to make it seem like, the climate crisis is real. I don't know. And there you go. Bobby asking a good question. Do you think the average person would know the difference between extent and volume? So it's incredibly misleading. They're saying Antarctic, the sea ice. So the ice on Antarctica, most of it is on land, right? So the sea ice is, the ice that is over the sea, and the extent could grow. However, the total overall volume of ice could be going down. This is the problem. This is what's going on in the Arctic as well. The extent of the Arctic ice goes out, and then it goes back, and then it goes out, and then it goes back. But the volume, the thickness of the ice is what is the very scary part, right? Most of the ice in the Arctic used to be very thick, multi-year ice, right? Ice that was there for years and years and years, had been built up over layers and layers and layers, right? All that ice has melted down to this very thin layer of ice, and most of the ice in the Arctic is now just thin, maybe 1 or 2 year old ice, and a lot of the ice grows back every year during the winter and then melts during the summer. That's anyways. You guys, I'm telling you guys stuff that you already know. Yeah, the thing about the volcano is well, poppycock, I guess. If you want to put it, if you want to use the English, the UK vernacular. But yeah, saying stuff like this doesn't mean that like it's not real, and I don't know. This is just extra bolith weights will collapse within. Oh, and then we're not even talking about. I was I meant to bring that up. There's the issues with the warmer water underneath the ice. Thank you, Extra Bullet, for coming in, swooping in with other information about this. The warm water melting these glaciers from underneath. They're breaking off of Antarctica. There's huge glaciers that are melting and collapsing in Antarctica. That doesn't mean like, oh, everything's getting better in Antarctica, guys. No, they're just talking about this one thing called sea ice extent, which is just the amount of ice that forms in the winter, and a lot of times melts back during the summer, right? And so we see that there's actually an issue with the warmth in Antarctica and in the water underneath, like breaking up these gigantic glaciers, and they're about to collapse and float, break away from Antarctica, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Exactly. There's way more science to climate change than people, the people that think that they're skeptical are people that don't actually know anything about climate science, right? They just looked at one thing and they're like, there you go. It's over. Yeah. Anyways, I'm glad we could all help each other out here and just giving some information about what's really going on there. So anyways, all right. And so, thank you, DB Cooper. I appreciate the tip. Got a tip from DB Cooper saying, hope everybody is happy today and staying dry. Thanks, man. Yeah, actually, the sun has come out today. Eva Jones, earn income while simply working online. Work from home whenever you want. Thanks, Eva Jones. Block. All right. Yeah, so there's other. They're not talking about the glacier. These ice sheets. I guess ice sheets. Breaking up in Antarctica. Nobody said anything about that on the Joe Rogan show. I guess maybe they did. All right. Okay, let's keep going. Poppy posted this. World map of major water events in 2022. New report shows alarming changes in the entire global water cycle. We know that there were a lot of floods in 2022. It's from phys.org. 2022, a third La Nina year brought much rain to Australia and Southeast Asia, dry conditions to the other side of the Pacific. These patterns were expected, but behind these variations, there are troubling signs the entire global water cycle is changing. And we've been covering all of these major flood events all year long, every single day. That's what we do right here. Our research team watches the global water cycle closely. We analyze observations from more than 40 satellites that continuously monitor the atmosphere and Earth's surface. We merge those with data from thousands of weather and water monitoring stations on the ground. For the first time, For the first time, we've drawn on those many terabytes of data to paint a full picture of the water cycle over a year for the entire globe, as well as for individual countries, etc. Okay. The year in a nutshell: third consecutive La Nina influenced weather around the world. 3 La Nina years in a row is unusual, but not unprecedented. So yeah, Pakistan, we had Northern Australia, all over. We had Middle East got some flood events. And this is this is another year in a line of many years. Somebody had a question for me on call-in. I don't know if they're still here on call-in. It says, why don't you explain specifically what Joe got wrong regarding the volcano comment? Oh, I don't know. Are you still here, Terry? I don't know if Terry's still here. Well, there's quite a few people who've debunked the idea that the volcano put more CO2 in the. Sorry, I didn't see that question until now. Yeah, that whole they put more CO2 in the air thing is. Hold on, guys. Here's an article from The Guardian. Climate skeptics' favorite theory that volcanoes produce more CO2 than human activity has exploded in their faces. Okay, well, let's not be a little. Let's. I'm trying to go down to where they just get to the information here. So yeah, hold on. Okay. John Cook of the increasingly popular Skeptical Science website. We'll talk about this while we're here. Currently lists the volcanoes emit more CO2 than humans viewpoint as number 54 on his ever-growing list, 107 to date, of debunked skeptic arguments. It was also a point picked up by my colleague James Randerson when he interviewed Plimmer. Plimmer is somebody who claimed the volcanoes release more CO2 than humans. Let's see. Interviewed Plimmer last December. In Heaven and Earth, Plimmer says volcanoes produce more CO2 than the world's cars and industries combined. Randerson challenged Plimmer on the point, stating that the U.S. Geological Survey states human activities release more than 130 times the amount of CO2 emitted by volcanoes. Plimmer responded by saying that this does not account for undersea eruptions. However, when Randerson checked this point with USGS volcanologist Dr. Terrence Gerlach, he received the reply, I can confirm to you that the 130 times figure on the USGS website is an estimate that includes all volcanoes, submarine as well as subaerial. Geoscientists have two methods for estimating the CO2 output of the mid-oceanic ridges. Anyways, so USGS is confirming that human activities release 130 times the amount of CO2 emitted by volcanoes, all volcanoes. Undersea, submarine as well as subaerial. Hold on. Iceland's Eyjafjall, I don't know how to pronounce that. Joseph, I see you. I'll take your call in a minute. That volcano is emitting 150,000 to 300,000 tons of carbon dioxide per day, a figure placing it in the same emission league as a small to medium European economy. Anyways, Patrick Allard of the Paris Institute for Global Physics. Terry Barnes, I hope you're still here. I'm explaining this for you. Patrick Allard of the Paris Institute for Global Physics gave what he described as a top-range estimate of 300,000 tons per day. Both insisted that these were approximate estimates. Extrapolated over a year, the emissions would place the volcano 47th to 75th in the world table of emitters on a country-by-country basis, according to a database, World Resources Institute. Anyways. Experts stress that the volcano contributed just a tiny amount, less than a third of 1 percentage point of global emissions of greenhouse gases. So there's one argument. Anyways, that's incorrect. But people love to talk about that, or love to just say stuff like that, and that's not. Anyways, we're leaving the water. We know that there not only were a ton of flooding events last year, but a ton in the last few years. Sorry, I do kind of give an overview of what's happening with the climate, and we're not doing like super in-depth scientific, dissections of all things climate change. I only have an hour. And most of the people here have seen millions, that's hyperbolic, but thousands probably videos explaining different aspects of climate change. Not only that, read books, read studies, it's not just, climate change is a huge field of study with many, many moving parts. And, I've done this channel for 5 years. I've gone in depth on all kinds of issues regarding climate change. I don't mind people asking me to explain why. But, we also have Google's too. We have Google searches. But I actually had to explain the Google search, of the Antarctic extent growing, not having anything to do with climate change not being a thing. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just something for people to say, right? If you Google that and went, whoa, oh, they're lying to us. Not really. All right. Joseph, I'm going to take your call. How you doing?
Hello.
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Well, I'm doing okay. You caught me when I was just going to disconnect because you went and researched it yourself, and I was hoping to add to that.
Oh, okay.
So, thanks. But
right.
That note,
you were gonna help Terry out. I see where you're going.
Yeah, and you did all the legwork. So, but you brought up a good point. Because again, by cornering the market on the discussion being about CO2, it totally obliterates the discussion about all the sulfides and other stuff. A volcano is a great example of that. And again, it also is a great example of a rate difference, right? So the CO2 coming from any one volcano, let alone all of them, is really fast, whereas civilizations is averaged out and stretched over time.
Right.
And this is not in the conversations.
Right, exactly. It's pumping out a lot of CO2 over a couple days.
Right.
Or maybe, however long it's blowing.
Now extend that to thermodynamics, Kevin, because you're filling the air with all this stuff that's, yeah, it may be hot, but it's taking that heat pretty much and diving into the ocean, minus whatever in the atmosphere is taking up the heat, and also diving in the ocean.
Exactly.
Right.
There's so many parts. Like, when we were talking about Antarctica and the ice extent, right? There's all these other parts going on, right? The total volume of ice, and someone brought up, the ice sheets, breaking off of Antarctica due to warming waters, blah blah blah. Right? There's, you could just talk about extent and get away with. That's called cherry picking, right? Just
very much so.
Right.
It's almost shocking. Yeah.
It's ridiculous because that's a very surface understanding of anything. And if you actually understood what was going on and looked a little deeper into it, then you go, "Oh, that's wrong." That's a moot point. That doesn't actually mean anything.
Which you brought up Google. Why doesn't anybody with access to Joe Rogan have access to Google and go, "Well, is that true?"
Yeah. But that's the way a lot of people operate. Is that they, it's the way a lot of people operate is they get their news, and I understand we only have so many hours in the day, and we have very little time to really research things in depth. Me too, right? I only have so much bandwidth to do research, and I try to get more in-depth information if I can. And most people will not research. People love to talk about do the research, but a lot of people actually don't do the research. They listen to their favorite channels and their favorite journalists tell them things, and then they go, "That's the truth," because I like this guy or girl or whoever it is.
So how about the guy who's the guest on Joe Rogan? I mean, if you're going to go on a show with thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers and listeners, you'd think you'd take a step off to Google at least for 10 minutes.
Right. Well, you'd think, right?
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
But that's not the way people that's not the way people operate. And even people who again, it's very hard for people to really get in depth about the thing that they think they believe or don't believe. And that's what was one of my points. The guy that I was talking about, the climate denier the other day, what's his name? He's from New York. I'm trying to remember his name. Anyways, some people reference this guy listen to this guy, the nuclear physicist. Dang it, his name is slipping my mind. But anyways, he's his whole thing was well, I just believe climate change was real because the smart people told me it was real, but he didn't actually have any understanding about why they believed it was real, right? He didn't ever actually look at the science of climate change himself. So he's like, but then I got new information. Well, you got new information from people who didn't believe in, and he thought, well, that's the truth. And I was like, well, you didn't even actually go listen to the other people who you believed without even researching why it was they believed that. You were just like, well, they're smart people, so they just know better, right?
Yeah, I have no concept.
That's no reason. That's no reason to, that's no reason to believe in something. Or disbelieve in something. It's just
that's hard to wrap your head around from where I'm sitting. Okay.
It's like, well, so when you actually started to research it, all you did was you went to a certain group of people, and you didn't actually you didn't actually look at the climate change, the science of climate change as presented by most of the scientists on the planet. Most 99 point, whatever it is, 5% of scientists on the planet all, understand the science of climate change, on this certain level. Anyways.
Agreed.
Yeah. But I guess this is why. Who? Hold on. Tim is saying something on. Steve Koonin. Thank you, Tim DC. Right. He's
Steve Koonin.
And
yeah.
he said Rogan had him on too. That's sure, of course. I mean, it's fine if you're gonna present, the other, side of the argument. It's fine. I don't have a problem. I actually don't have a problem with skepticism. in science.
No, if it's honest skepticism, it's a good thing. But honest skepticism requires an honest investigation.
Yeah. Yes, and Michael
And-
Schellenberger as well. G. Demers, yes. He's also one of those guys. But, like,
And-
yeah.
And these are guys purporting to be honest investigators.
Here's the other thing to know. Is it Schellenberger who's a geologist?
Think so.
So Schellenberger is a geologist, his field of study, and who do geologists work for? Oil companies.
Oil company.
And,
right.
I'm betting he has some ties to oil companies. Steve Koonin is a former employee of British MF Petroleum, right? So
and if
this
nothing
dude
else,
used to work for an oil company, and so he comes out and says climate change isn't real. Oh, there's no connection whatsoever to you, quote unquote, formerly working for an oil company, which you
Right.
probably still work for.
And what kind of non-disclosure agreements did they sign? So, like,
Exactly.
they can't talk about things a certain way, and
Right.
so on.
Yes. It's just it's kind of like let's look at who's got ties to what. Let's see where you guys are coming from, and it gets kind of easy to see. Oh, okay, Steve Koonin. You really looked into the science, but you also used to work for an oil company, so there's you're going to give us your honest, right, non-colored, biased opinion on this. Really, all right. Sure, I kind of believe you. Not really. Anyways,
That's the hubris in
Kinda
it,
don't really
because
believe
these guys, they certainly understand physics, and so they have to. How do they look themselves in the mirror, knowing that they're denying physics
yes.
to whatever degree?
Oh,
yeah.
you know what? It's not Schellenberger. It's Tony Heller. Tony Heller is a geologist, and so it was funny because I was talking about Tony Heller one day, and I found out he was a geologist. I was like, oh yeah, well that explains it.
That explains a lot. What was Schellenberger then? I thought he was.
I don't know. Somebody said, Tim says Schellenberger is anthropology or something.
Okay.
But I don't know. Anyways, man, I got a couple more things to cover. I'm gonna let you go. I got a couple things
Thank
to
you.
cover before I get out of here. But thanks.
Good.
for
Good
calling.
talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bella says these people worship Satan. Yeah, so obsolete optics. Exactly. That's exactly right. Oil companies are using the same tried and tested tactics as the tobacco companies did, which is what? Push out experts to tell you, oh, these things don't kill you. There's no link between lung cancer and cigarettes. And they did this for years. They had doctors, people playing doctors on TV talking about, I smoke Pall Malls. They're good for you, right? They literally had people doing that, obfuscating the truth so that these people could stay in business at the expense of people's health. And for some reason, journalists these days, right now, cannot make the link between these, quote unquote experts and their links to, the nuclear energy industry or the oil companies, and somehow, these big, nasty, huge, hulking conglomerates of business and death, somehow they're okay. Big pharma is bad and they're liars, but somehow these, oil, when somebody says clean, renewable energy or reliable energy, Tony Heller, somehow these people are to be believed. It makes me question your intelligence. Or your level of quote unquote truthfulness. It makes me question it. And sorry to put that question out there. No, I'm not sorry. You should have that question too. If you're listening to people who can't tell the difference between a nasty, hulking death machine called the oil industry and a nasty, hulking death machine called Big Pharma. somehow they're different. Okay, it's the same on the other side too. Poppy Davis, climate is getting more MSM coverage. Temperatures could rise off the charts with return of El Nino this year. Right. So we were just talking about La Nina. Or maybe warning of unprecedented heat waves as El Nino set to return in 2023. We don't know that for sure, but there are signs flashing, red signs flashing that El Nino is coming back. And that is not going to be fun, because what have we had in La Nina years when it's supposed to be cool? We have, many places on the planet, on planet Earth, setting temperature records, not just 1 year, but years in multiple years in a row, which makes it not an anomaly but a trend. Again, people are trying to tell you this isn't real. Well, you say, well, it was as hot as, as this year in 1943. Yeah, but was it, this hot and getting hotter for multiple years in a row? Was there a trend line going for those years? I don't know. There were periods where it was warm over the last, century for sure. But we have, these are not the only signals we have that climate change is happening. It's not just like, but when you have the UK experiencing like Los Angeles type heat for multiple years in a row, then that is not right. That is not real. That's not right. When you have Portland and Seattle and Vancouver and Siberia and places in Northern Europe experiencing, extremely warm weather, not just 1 year, but multiple years in a row. When you have, during the winter time, places like Maine and the Swiss Alps and, I don't know how many other places, yeah, we have lots of snow in California right now. Great. Thank God. But in other places that are supposed to be, Clayton just said Michigan, no snow. Where's the snow? You have places that are supposed to be layered in snow right now, absolutely lathered in snow, and there's no snow, and it's January. Something is wrong. Something is off. Something is very, very different. And if this happens year after year after year, then you understand it's not an anomaly. It's called a trend line. It means something is now amiss, and it's now this is a new normal. And when people intentionally refuse to pick that out or see that, I have questions. Anyways, scientists say phenomenon coupled with growing climate crisis likely to push global temperatures off the charts. Right. If you have massive record-setting heat. Extra Bulla says Buffalo and upstate has got snow, but New York City not a flake. Yeah, and that's, the Alps have no snow. Yeah, these are not necessarily usual. Right, so we have these heat waves, heat anomalies, record-setting temperatures happening when it's supposed to be a cooler period for the planet. And then next time we get El Nino, what's going to happen? That's the question. What happens when we flip into the warm phase, the El Nino phase on the planet Earth, when we already have record-setting heat going on? Has anybody read Ministry for the Future? Stuff, I fear stuff like that will happen, where you have heat waves that take out millions of people. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but, how many more El Nino phases do we have until we have, a serious blocking situation, and we have heat waves that are off the charts, 120 degrees or 130 degrees or whatever it is, and they last for a week or two, and millions of people expire. What happens when that situation actually comes to bear? You know, well, obviously the Michael Schellenbergers and Tony Hellers of the world hopefully won't have positions anymore where they can actually tell people what's going on. Okay, I'm going to take this call from Clayton.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right.
I want to explain to people just how crazy this non-winter has been in Michigan.
Please do.
So, if you look it up, the average January temperature for where I am, the average high should be 27 and the average low should be 16. And let me read you the next 10 days of my forecast.
Okay.
Low of 32, low of 37, low of 33, low of 33, low of 29, low of 28, low of 28, low of 28, low of 28, low of 24. And then all mid 40s or mid 30s. It's supposed to be a low of 16 and a high of 27.
Right.
And the lows aren't 27.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
our average high is like way out of whack.
Yeah.
And it's been like this all month, and it's going to be like this all month.
Yeah.
And last December in Michigan, if you go on Climate Reanalyzer, I know Paul Beckwith uses that site a lot.
Yeah.
But you can look up like data for anything in the past, and you can check like the current temperature anomalies and stuff. But last December in Michigan, 12.1 degrees above average. 12.
Jesus.
Like,
Holy
it's just
shit.
been here.
Yeah.
Like, ski slopes are struggling. Like, a lot of, like, they don't know what to do. Like,
yeah.
my local ski slope is like, well, we might be open for, like, because they're just pumping out snow every time it gets below zero, and then it just melts. And it's like,
Yep.
it's just weird. Like, there's nothing.
That's real, man. And I don't know. I can't. I've had so many people call me from different points in the U.S. Mostly in the U.S. Ohio, Maine,
Mm-hmm.
New York. You're calling from Michigan. People just telling me that things are really weird and things are totally different, right? They just.
Mm-hmm.
And what and that is frightening, isn't it?
It's so weird.
Absolutely frightening because what a mess that even this winter is going to make of the seasons and how that affects plants and animals and how they behave and et cetera, et cetera. So and if this goes on into the future, where are we gonna again, I go back to I was just saying there is going to be an event. there will be an event in the right now we're talking about things that people can see but are not acknowledging. The lack of insects, the lack of snow in the wintertime, the strangeness in the seasons, the strangeness in the amount of weather extremes that we're experiencing, right? Like people can see this is happening, but you're still in a position to kind of deny
it's getting harder and harder.
It's getting harder and harder, but we are going to have an event like that is in the ministry for the future where there's a heat wave in India or somewhere. Who knows where? It could be in Seattle. It doesn't even have to be India. It could just be, there was a heat wave in Europe several years ago, probably 15, now almost 20 years ago. I think it was 20 years ago. That killed like 30,000 people because it was completely out of way off the charts, out of the norm, and people couldn't even, they were not prepared for it. They couldn't handle it. And so,
I'm scared for this next El Nino because, I mean, it like oscillates on and off, but there's typically like a big spike every 10, 15 years. Yeah. Our last big spike was 2016, and the last big spike before that was like 98 or something.
Yes.
So it's like a long time between these big spikes, but the next big spike might be 2032. At the same time, the Earth is already breaking records in La Nina. Like, if you want to add another half degree onto it, plus whatever, it's going to be scary.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And you will have an event where, like millions of people will die. Like literally that that, and it will take some event like that, and it sucks, because that nobody is wishing for that or hoping for that or want, I don't want to see anything like that happen, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen because it's an inevitability, and that really sucks. But when that happens, that will be an oh shit moment for the human race. That's going to be an oh shit moment where people are like, oh damn, like,
right. And
we were cool, we were okay, where everything was fine. Damn it, you had to go in. Yeah.
And the event that knocks people into action will also be the event that signifies it's already too late.
Oh,
like
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And one more thing, I don't know if you know the channel Our Changing Climate on YouTube.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. They're one of the biggest climate channels on YouTube, and they put out this video on overpopulation.
Oh, really?
And so it's like a 22-minute long video, and I'm watching it. And first they start off, they're like, it's Tucker Carlson talking about like immigration, and then they get to Michael Moore on his movie, right? And then the whole time they're just pointing fingers, saying like, "Oh, they're pointing to Nazis and eugenics and stuff."
Yeah. And
the whole time I'm just waiting for them to get to the science, and then the video ends, and I'm like, "Oh,
no,
this was just finger pointing," and they forgot to talk about
why. I see it now. Why overpopulation is actually a problem.
That's a clickbait title.
Oh, the myth of overpopulation is killing us. Oh, shoot. This is this channel is not real, or this channel is somebody's behind this channel, right? Is this a real climate change channel?
It's a well-funded channel. You can tell like by the production quality and stuff, but give that a watch after the show and tell me what you think, because it just I was just cringing the whole time, waiting for the science, and nope.
Why is it? So here's why we need to rethink veganism. So is this? I wonder if that's a clickbait title too. I'm seeing like.
I mean, some of the videos are fine.
Okay.
Like they're not doing like, it's not like terrible work, but I don't know if they're compromised or if it's just like they're misled. But
right.
I mean, like the population issue is super nuanced, of course, but like they're just saying like, oh no, not a problem, has nothing to do with it. It's just Nazis and eugenicists you got to worry about and racists.
Oh man, so yeah, they that's an issue. That is an issue. That is an issue. Yeah. So
I do have one more video.
Yeah.
Do you know Just Have a Think? That British guy.
Yes. I like that channel.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. He made a video about how during the lockdowns, methane emissions, like, CO2 emissions went down, but methane emissions actually went up, and it wasn't from humans. And he explained how it was because the lack of pollution made it warmer in the northern hemisphere, and then we got like record releases of methane from that,
from the clathrates and whatnot.
From that. Yeah. So that's another cool one to check out.
Oh, yeah, I'll check that out. That looks good. Oh, yeah. I mean, he does really good work. And he's talking about global dimming, right? The lack of emissions actually led to a spike in some places, not worldwide, but there was a spike in some of the temperatures. Right. Primarily in Siberia. I remember that year. Siberia got really hot. Like Russia, they had like 100 degrees or 110 degrees or something like that, like way up north. So yeah, that would melt some methane deposits.
That got me thinking, the worst heat wave ever, as some are calling it, in China last summer.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that was due to their lockdowns.
Their lockdowns, right? It could be just immediate. Well,
immediate effect.
There is something to be said about the regional, local immediate effect of the lack of of dimming, right? Because I think the original, a lot of the original data from that came from 9/11, when all the planes were grounded, and there was a noticeable uptick in, I think it was high low, like the lows,
Oh,
temperatures,
interesting.
like nighttime temperatures, went up pretty dramatically in the U.S. Like after that grounding, after that ground stop, where all the planes were grounded for like 2 weeks, and a lot of the data on global dimming, comes somewhat from that, but that's not all the data. But that was a big indicator of like, oh, this is happening. This is what's going on, right? But and the lockdowns were actually a good place for people to look at that. I don't know. I'm still my views on that are somewhat mixed views on. I do think global. I agree that global dimming is a thing and it's actually happening. Like, and it will happen. My take on it though is that I feel like maybe it's not. It's not like, well, if we stopped emitting, we stopped half of the emissions, like, oh, the planet would just melt down immediately. I don't know. I don't necessarily think. I feel like maybe it might be regional, but it wouldn't be like we immediately all die.
Well, another thing to factor in with, speaking of this volcano, right?
Yes.
It didn't. Sure, it pumped out some CO2, but a lot of it was actually a cooling effect.
Exactly.
Due to all the particles, all the particulates in the air. So I wonder if that kind of canceled out our lack of emission.
You're right. It could have. You're right. It could have. So you got to take in all the factors. Like I could be totally wrong. I was kind of waiting for, we had this big downturn in emissions during COVID. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of like, well, is this, I was just, my point was,
where's the big jump?
Are we experiencing just the regular uptrend in warming? Or is this a jump? Like yes, exactly. Where is this huge spike in warming that we're supposed to see from the lack of global dimming? Or is this just, we're getting warmer every year and this is just a new year and we're a little bit warmer? That's what it felt like to me. Like I didn't actually, but there has been study and data coming out saying that it did in certain places. It was, that there was a lack of global dimming and it led to sure. I don't dispute that there are several things going on, but
I'm not so educated on the issue, but it makes sense that some particles absorb heat, some particles reflect heat.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to take it out of the air, but I think the net benefit though of stopping emissions is a benefit. Like I think it's a plus, right? Like if you did stop emissions
in the long term,
in the long term, and maybe even in the short term, like if you do stop these emissions, there's going to be negatives and positives, and I feel like
mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the negative that people make it out to be. That's just my opinion, and you can be mad at me. Mm-hmm. You can say that's just totally unscientific. It's fine.
I think I agree, because you have to factor in the 10 million people a year that die from pollution issues.
Yeah.
Directly from air pollution issues.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I'll let you get back to the show, though.
Yeah, I'm going to actually wrap it up. But thanks for calling in, Clayton.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Get yourself some chickens.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to work on that.
All right. See ya.
See ya. I'm glad everybody is cheering on my chicken project. Thanks. Oh, shoot. Dang it, Rockfin. Why do you do this? Man, that's very annoying. I'm trying to do a show, and you log me out of my show. I find that a little bit frustrating. Hopefully my show is still going on Rockfin. Rockfinners, I'm sorry if the show is not going. It looks like it is. It's hard to tell. Okay, let's get in here. Let's see. We still have a show? Well, doesn't look like it got interrupted, so that's good. Sorry, Rockfinners. Anyways, I am going to wrap up the show. I think that's it. I didn't even cover. We covered about 10% of the things I wanted to talk about today, but I'll try and get to the next stories tomorrow, I guess. checking out my coffee. Buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews is a really awesome way to support the show. There are several ways. Rockfin tips also, I like them. YouTube tips, also appreciate the YouTube tips, guys. There are other ways. I actually might bring back my Venmo and my Cash App links to the description box, but if any of you have any of those are also good ways to support the show. Extra Bola says, fun fact, I accidentally logged out of Rockfin during a live stream. But once you fire off the live button, you're golden until the streaming software ends the stream. Yeah. You're right. And then also the stream is pretty forgiving on Rockfin, right? So as long as the software is going and saying that you're streaming, mostly it'll catch the stream. All right, guys, thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will see you all tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Standard. And until next time, peace. Oh, thank you. Obsolete Optics got a last-minute super chat. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.